number one thing that people say to us, when someone says, "Oh, I've just been diagnosed," we always say, "Oh, I'm sorry." And they're like, "Well, why are you sorry? You didn't give me cancer." So
Right.
as humans, we want to say something. So like, how else, maybe you've not heard from your friends since they were diagnosed. Like, how do you initiate that conversation? How do you offer help, but without being patronizing? And it's this kind of thing that just even as adults, nobody tells you. No one tells
No.
you been through it.
Not only does nobody tell you, but nobody vocalizes this stuff or continues to bring it to the forefront of conversation. I feel like it's so funny. I was just talking to my husband about this morning. I'm gonna get a little deep with you guys for a second. Unfortunately, we have a friend who passed away from breast cancer just a couple weeks ago, our age. And it's been really, really hard for us to just deal with the implications of all of it,
Yeah.
like the implications of her partner who she left behind, who is a good friend of ours from a CrossFit gym, the implications of like our own lives and mortality and our parents getting like just everything, it's been really tough. And her boyfriend consistently, like every time I open my Instagram, he's posted something about her. And I was telling Matt this morning, every time I open my Instagram, it makes me cry. But I love how incredibly vocal he's being about his girlfriend who he lost, who he is still very much in love with, who he's devastated about losing, who he whatever, because I feel as a society, we're like, shh, don't talk about grief. Like, definitely don't put it on the internet. Like, keep your shit to yourself, keep whatever, like, "Oh, it's so sad this died," like, don't talk about it, and he's, like, out there every day. He's like, "I miss you, I love you, this made me think of you, here's a picture of you, here's a picture of your headstone, here's a picture of whatever," and he's just loud about it, and I love that he's doing it even though it makes me cry. I love that he's doing it because I don't know how to talk about the fact that she's gone and it's difficult for me, and I don't know how to talk about the fact that he's going through something and I'm worried about him and I don't know how to reach out to him, but he's kind of making a channel for it.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that we talk about that kind of stuff enough,
No,
especially as adults. We just don't, nobody knows how to approach one another about that kind of thing, you know?
no, especially imagine being British. We don't want to like,
You can't social
right.
emotion about
Right.
anything, anyone.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to you about anything. Like
Right.
that's like even worse. But you know that situation, it puts you in this really horrible position because you're grieving a loss yourself. You're also feeling the grief of a person that you know and what they're carrying. And so what you get strangled with is what should I do? And now there isn't a golden answer. There's not like, oh, say exactly this at this exact time and it's going to make everything better. But it's like, okay, how do I initiate conversation? How can I so one of the things we talk about is remembering special dates. So when somebody's lost somebody, you as the friend remembering that person's birthday, remembering that time that they graduated college, or speaking to the loved one about those dates. And it comes back time and time again that that's like a wonderful conversation starter. It's a chance to connect about the loss and to talk about things. It shows that person that you care and you remember. And, I always remember if somebody remembers my birthday, it's like makes you feel really nice that that person remembers it. So it's just simple things that we try and instill to people to go, okay, hey, here's just a few things to try in these situations. And at least you're not going to make anything worse. Like by trying
Hmm.
these things, you might do something wonderful. They might say, hey, I'm just not ready right now, but I really appreciate it. Things like, what can I do for you? That's a terrifying question to someone who's just lost someone.
Right.
So
And
what
everyone instinctively is going to be like, nothing, don't worry about it. And that's so not true.
Yeah, and so we had this really good example. We had a guy on the program who, really early in his 20s, he had a really advanced stage of cancer that he's led to having quite large part of his intestine removed. So he has a stoma bag, and he was diagnosed and went through that surgery in COVID. And he said everybody would just say, "Oh, hey, what can I do for you?" And he was so overwhelmed by the sheer thing of what was going through. He said there was people that used to just ring him and say, "Hey, I'm going to go get you shopping for you. I'm going to drop it outside your house." And he was like, it was amazing. He was like, "Oh, people would say to me, do you have an appointment and you're struggling to get there? I can take you." And he would say yes, or sometimes he would say no. But instead of this kind of, what can I do for you? Well, you can't bring my person back, but it's so difficult. They can't think about that. So we just want to do these really simplistic things for people to go like, at the end of a class, what can we walk away with? And also just opening up because, like, I don't want to go too much on listening to my own voice, but, we have an event in Dubai and the UAE is really expanding. It's really changing from some of its old, like, kind of culture. We've had people do our events that went through diagnosis, treatment, and post treatment that never told their husbands or children. So culturally, it was not accepted to talk about serious illness. It was seen as like a dishonor within a family. And I'm not saying that's everywhere, but in certain cultures it was. And so we've had people at our events who didn't even tell their husband, didn't tell their children what they went through. And then after our event, they did because they felt they had enough confidence to do so. So the not talking thing does so much more damage than trying. It's
Mhm. Wow.
The beauty of the CrossFit community has always been our joint connection through shared suffering.
yeah.
And it's the
Mm.
suffering of a workout, right? Like it's nothing serious, but to us it's serious. Like, oh my God, friend nearly killed me. And then you bitch to your friend and they bitch too, and you build this connection.
Yeah.
But grief is no different when you really start to break it down and think, if you've got this shared grief, this shared suffering, this shared brokenness. It's the talking and communing over that and both feeling the same thing that brings people together of why it's so important to be talking. And that's what's kind of brilliant about what you guys are doing, Scott, is like bringing people together. Say, hey, let's discuss how you talk because they're like I'm one of those fearless people that I like. I never worry about saying the wrong thing because I say a lot of dumb shit.
Yeah, you're really good about that.
So like I don't mind. That's why
Not
I
the
love the
saying the
adapt.
dumb shit part,
Yeah.
the actually talking part. That
Well,
came out of the wrong
no, no,
time.
no, you said it the right time. So it's why I love the adaptive athletes as an example, because I know I can just ask them questions and they've heard it all, so they don't give a shit. They'll just be like, "Okay," you know? And they have real dark humor, so it's like we get each other. And I think it's the same way when someone has a disease like cancer, for instance. I don't know if I told you this, Scott, but my dad got cancer recently,
Yeah.
and he has a very similar sense of humor to me. He had bladder cancer. So we heard a lot of dick jokes, like a
All the dick
lot,
jokes.
all the dick jokes. But that's how, and that's how he makes people less uncomfortable about the disease and more uncomfortable about his dick. It's
If
like
you
that's
had to
how it
pick
works.
one,
Yeah, you got to pick one. Let's make you really uncomfortable. But I do think it's the brilliance of getting people to talk about it that's the most important thing and what really brings people together and changes lives of those that are battling the disease because then they feel less. I think a lot of people that have the disease, and I'm not speaking for them, but I know from talking to my dad, they often feel like they're a burden to some degree. Like
Mm.
they're like other people are having to make life changes because of them, even though there's nothing they could have done about it. And so it's brilliant to get people to talk about it because you can eliminate some of that stigma. You can eliminate some of the fear, scary enough as it is. So getting that fear out is amazing. And then to your point, Nikki, allows you to grieve together as opposed to sitting in silence and going, man, I don't know what to say.